All right, I'm here with Dave, and he's got a 2019 Toyota Tacoma that's been kitted out in one of the most amazing ways. He came into our shop there, and I was so excited to see it. And I actually asked him, I was like, hey, can you walk me through this? And he took me out to these lots, and he walked me through the entire truck. And I was blown away by actually what went into this, the thought that went behind every detail in this truck, and kind of the inspiration that he had for this truck. So I'm gonna let Dave kind of walk through a little bit, and I'll prompt him with some questions.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Thanks for the kind words. Yeah, this was a build that started in, well, maybe 2.5 years ago. It was an inspiration from owning an old 1999 Nissan Frontier, which I still own. But I've always seen a lot of beautiful Toyotas and other trucks out there as they're evolving, and eventually I'd stumbled across some photos of like some concept trucks, or a concept truck that Toyota had built, and it was never produced, but there was I think a Motor Trend article, and there was a lot of other people building trucks with this configuration in regards to rooftop tents and awnings and yada yada. So like a multi-purpose bug out vehicle or camping or whatever you want to use it for, sort of thing. So
So what was your first things to approach on the vehicle? So when people are like looking at kitting out either the 3rd gen or 4th gen
yeah.
Tacomas and things like that, what are like the first 3 things you looked at upgrading?
Well, like I say, my evolution was originally just to lift and put some nice wheels, and the concept of overlanding wasn't quite there yet. It sort of evolved after. Like, I've always said to myself, I'd love to have a Toyota like that guy or that whatever. And I always had something in the back of my head what I would do. Then before I even got the truck, then I started thinking, hey, if I'm going to go this far, I would really like to do that as well. So what really started it was, once I got the truck, I had to do some research I knew I was lifting it. So there's lift kits for just like spacers. There's just, they space the spring, but they don't do anything other than lift. There's body lifts. There's so many different types out there. I wanted something that's going to take the extra weight of all the gear. Like, so the tent, the awning, the bumpers, the swing outs, the winch added at least another 500 pounds. So the suspension needed to have the add-a-leaf, the front springs had to be bumped, everything had to be bumped up. So now that we've loaded it down like dry, it drives perfect as if it was off the showroom floor, because the suspension is now the proper suspension for this. So the main thing was get the proper lift for what you're doing. I wanted to make sure that the suspension was going to handle the weight, and it does. It's exactly it. The Icon Stage 3 is what I've added. It's perfect. There's higher models and higher rankings of the Icons. There's King shocks out there. There's all sorts of stuff, but the Icons, the Kings, the Bilsteins, those top, they're pretty much the top in category for lifts that I've been researching. So
Nice.
we
Yeah.
put the Icons on this one. I chose it. It was a good, not a bad price, and it's excellent. The best suspension I've ever personally used.
I liked that the wheels kind of fit in there really nicely. I think if anybody had like a 3rd gen Tacoma there,
Yep.
like what size of wheels are those? Do you know offhand?
Okay, the stock wheel comes with a 16-inch rim, and it's got a +4 offset, the original. So the wheel would be set in a little bit more. This is a 0 offset 17-inch rim with basically a 285 70 R17s. Methods, I think they're called the NV305s, but the 0 offset gets it perfect to the level of the outer fender flare, etc. And so and it gives it that perfect stance. You don't need spacers or anything like that. And I personally believe the 17-inch wheel looks better than the 16s. It's one of the most popular sizes and rim configuration that I've heard of, especially down south. But anyways, that's
Yeah, no, it's a nice setup and a nice stance, and it's not too
yeah, I
much of
like it.
a burden on it. It's about a 3-inch lift, is that?
It's actually a 2 3/4 is what they
Okay.
claim it, because of the year. If this was a year or a gen, I don't know if this will fit a Gen 3. It might not. They go up to a 3. They say it goes up to a 3-inch depending on the year. And this is 2 3/4. It's maxed out. I can't go any higher,
Yeah.
and which is fine. I don't want to. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect height.
All right, so walk me through the 4WP stuff you got on there. So you had the bumpers and everything, and I
Yeah.
think there's a cool story behind that.
There's a little bit of a cool story about this. When I got the suspension installed, it was done at 4 Wheel Parts in Langley. Great people. they're no longer four-wheel parts. At the time when I bought the truck, I knew right away, okay, I bought wheels and they had the suspension that I want. So I had them install. And while I was there, I saw the four-wheel parts, bumpers, the swing outs, all of the accessories available for the truck. And it was actually the look I wanted. The bumper isn't huge where you chop half of it off. I still got a lot of the bumper there. It's sort of like, you know, it's a nice fit. It keeps the body lines and it still protects the truck. I'm still able to put a 12,000 pound winch on there, which you can't see. It's under the front bumper, but nevertheless, I went back for a second and had them mount the bumpers. Did the lift, brought it back maybe a month later, had the bumpers put on, and I knew the swing outs were available. So I was like, oh, when I get more money. By the time December rolled along, I bought the truck in August, and by the time I did all that little bit of work, December came along and four-wheel parts are gone. So unfortunately, you know, as nice as this looks and all, you can't get it anymore. So um, there are a lot of other aftermarket stuff. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I was able to source out the swing arms or the swing outs from a gentleman here in Campbell River, actually. The Capit dealer guy is great. He was able to source out who purchased all of the stock, and he found them in Texas. So I said, get them. So we did. And so if anything happens, I can't replace it. But um,
They're like
my
well built.
my main thing was, and it's like this with pretty much all manufacturers, I wanted a real bumper. I wanted a real bumper. I didn't want to wait till I got into an accident or something. Well, I guess I'm going to have to replace the front one now, and I'll do the back one when I hit. No, I'm doing it now because I want protection. And that's basically what I wanted. I wanted to have this thing a little bit tougher than what it came with.
Yeah.
So that was the thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why we're there. I still got more work to do.
Yeah.
That's still evolving, but the hard stuff is pretty much done now. So
Walk me through the setup you have for the towers there. So like I've always had an issue with like being able to have a rack and a tonneau cover.
okay, this tonneau cover and rack system work together. I'm going to step over here quickly so you can see, and I'll point at it. So if you could see the slot where my finger's sliding in here, this rack slides right in on the top. Most roof racks have to be mounted on the inside of the bed. I didn't want that. I wanted a tonneau cover that is lockable, and they make these that they mate together. So I had the tonneau cover and the racks installed um, uh, after the bumpers were mounted. That was the next thing. And this was mounted at the same time. The awning wasn't available yet, but the people who mounted the rack tonneau cover mounted this as well. They had it all in stock. So I had them do it all in one shot. And then the awning came probably a year later. iCamper had brought them out, and I had special ordered one and they brought it in. So it's all matching now. So that's the idea. This can be easily slid back and forward, however you want it. Very simple. Just unbolt, and you can slide it. If it's too far forward, too far back, or just take it off altogether. It makes it very, very convenient. The other thing I like about this system is I get to see out my back window. It's very important, for me at least. You can still see my tail light, and my cameras in here, I can still monitor what's going on behind me while I'm driving. I've got cameras in the front and the back. So um, Yakima, I think, are probably, in my eyes, one of the best racks out there for this. They do make a lot of other ones, but I really fell in love with these. They look perfect with the look of this truck.
Walk me through the camping setup up top there.
Oh, iCamper 3.0. This is a king size bed idea. It will sleep at least, I guess, 4 people. It's got a skylight at the top. You can sit there and lay and stare at the stars, etc. The ladder comes down on the passenger side. I've also purchased a annex which attaches to it, which comes out and adds a whole new sleeping area down on the ground, or like a seating area. You could set it up. It's pretty huge. The awning comes around from basically the driver's side all the way around to this side, freestanding. Part of the evolution of the truck, when we did the bumpers, we had to mount lights. There were all these vacancies everywhere. I had all these holes and stuff. So I'm like, oh, I guess I'm buying bumpers and lights. So here I am. So I thought, what the heck? I'll throw Vivid lights, which are all, these ones were all DOT approved. So, which was important for street legal. I didn't know that. They educated me that at Four Wheel Parts at the time, which I thought, yes, I'd like to keep everything street legal. So Vivid fogs in the front. I still get to keep the original fogs here. Back when I was saying when other manufacturers tear out almost the whole bumper all the way up to the headlight, you'd lose these, or else you'd have to replace them for something else. I got to keep them because I kept all this bumper intact. So there's these lights, Vivid bar light there. I added also a massive Vivid light at the top as a flood. These were just, call that the Raptor lights, I guess they call them. Then I added the ditch lights right here, which are adjustable. So you're driving along and it sort of floods the side of the ditch or, dark situation. And I've used all of them. They do work. They're great. The bottom one here will flood the entire roadway straight down. Like you're in a bad foggy situation and the fogs aren't enough. I could light that entire road from end to end. That's that light. The top one is more of an area flood. So if I'm wanting to flood the area that I'm working in, that will work that way. This one here is more of a long distance flood, which is amazing. So when we added the lift, I was doing my research on some of the vehicles. The newer models come with a camera right here. And if you do a lift in some of these newer models at Toyotas, this safety sense feature may not work as good. So you may have to be aware of that depending on the model truck you're buying. You can modify these, apparently, from what I've heard in forums and stuff like that. The camera can be tilted to, because it's used to a certain distance of the ground, and once you raise it up, now the camera's like tripping, the code's going, there's something wrong. The other thing that this model comes with, because it's key and manual, does not come with TPMS sensors in the tires, which is an off-road discomfort for people, because it start tripping and they don't like it. And some, if it's really hot and you're going off-road and all of a sudden your TPMS is going crazy, they took it out. So it was a smart thing. The other thing, which a lot of people don't know, is the rear diff on the truck has a higher gearing on the manual transmissions over the automatics. So people who lift and put bigger wheels, you may notice shifting issues. So this is just the things I've heard. I've never experienced it because I don't own one, but I found out later that I was even happier to have this because of those features. So, but back to the front, underneath here, I've got the Smitty-built winch. Here's the hook. If I put a D-ring on here, I can loop it, but right now it's hiding behind the license plate and it just hangs there. So you can't see it.
Can you explain to me
That's about it, really.
this snorkel?
Oh, the desert air intake.
Can you walk me through that? Just not specifically about this vehicle, but
Okay.
how they work generally.
Well, it's a desert air intake based on the Toyota terminology. So snorkel, yeah, you're sucking air from a higher level. The idea is like your air filters right here. On 90% of all the vehicles out there, it draws air from somewhere here. Well, when you're going down dirt roads and you're billowing up all that dust, this now sucks your air from up here. Okay, it's not necessarily for water. You can only go as deep as your alternator will take it. As soon as your alternator's done, that's it. The truck is done. So it's not technically for water. It's technically for desert air, dust. Apparently, when I bought the truck, it came with this feature. I wasn't sure about it, and I thought, okay, I better do some research. And from what I found out, it is basically a win-win. If you have, like, you won't, probably 50% less replacing the air filters, etc. So I've yet to replace one. It works that well. And it seems to be like a better draw of air as well. So in the wintertime with snow, we actually remove these and we spin the cap around only in wet conditions. So wet snow, because it may pack. Otherwise, it's perfect. You got drain holes for the water. It's well done. And in my books, I don't mind it. The TRD guys were smart. They make aftermarket Safari ones, I think, are the companies. And they'll actually, punch a hole in the fender, feed the air through, and then they'll drill a hole in this, what they call the A-pillar, and bolt it right into that. Where this is mounted up here in the roof rack. There's no holes in my A-pillar, which could be a leak. So Toyota was smart. They brought it all the way up and it mounts right up here at the top of the roof rack level, right at the top of the roof. There's you know, it's all part of the system. They thought, you know, it was a smart idea. Okay, Gen 4s. Gen 3s don't have this issues from what I understand, or as much of an issue. They've got more frame clearance. When you do a lift and you put bigger wheels on, this particular lift kit came with upper control arms, also for, I guess, strength and also for wheel clearance. But right down in here, you can see how tight it is. You'll see how close the wheel is to the frame. And what they call as a cad cut, what you could do, what you have to do, is you have to take the truck in and they take a chunk of the frame out and they recap it and weld a new piece in, so you've got more wheel clearance when you're turning. And you'll really notice, especially when you're backing up and turning and or going over a curb or bump or whatever, it'll rub really badly. So that is sort of a must. So anybody with one of these Gen 4 style, I'm not sure about the Gen 5s that are new now. They may need it, they may not, but this definitely I had to do it. I wasn't worried about warranty at this point, because when I bought the truck, it was used. It already hit the 70,000 mark at this point, so I knew warranty was not an issue. So I didn't care. I just do it, and it's very clean. You wouldn't even know it was done. So. And as you can tell, there's no mud flaps. We had to remove those as well because of the size of the wheel. Now, the other thing is I can probably put 35s on this because of that lift and the cab cut. So I can put a bigger tire on if I want. I haven't done it yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to, but I'm sure I can. By the look at the clearance that I have here, I should be able to do it. So.
What's next for you?
I'm going to put air compressor in the motor area. ARB makes one that you bolt directly in. It runs off a belt, etc. So when you're off-roading and you get your tire deflator out and you take your tires and you drop them down to like 20 psi or whatever, and then you start 4x4ing off-road, and then you're done all that and you're coming back to normal pavement, you want to bump those tires back up. Well, that's just sort of one of those things. A built-in air compressor is very handy.
All
But for the truck itself, I think we're pretty close. Yeah, I think I'm pretty close now. Nice thing about the camper at the top, once you open it up, I can have a Pelican case right up at the top up here full of our gear. And I just sit up in the tent, open the window, and just grab stuff right out there. I don't have to keep coming out. Everything's all at the top. It's very handy, very, very nice. And you can go anywhere you want with this thing. And yeah, it's perfect.
Cheers, buddy. You.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ryan.
No worries. Let's go get some lunch.
All right.